vowels, we're going to start learning some phrases. Okay, we're going to start learning some phrases. We are still practicing our pronunciation, but rather than just combining consonants and vowels without any sense, we will start applying this to some phrases that we can apply or use. Okay, and we'll start with how do you say. Okay, in Spanish, how do you say is como se dice. Right, see it right next to it. Right, repeat everybody. Como se dice. Right, if there's a word in English that you want to know how do you say in Spanish, you will say, for example, if you want to know how to say ceiling, we would say como se dice ceiling. Right, any word, any phrase, right? Como se dice, and then the word or phrase. Como se dice, and then the answer to that, if you want to say it in a full sentence, you would say se dice techo. Como se dice ceiling, se dice techo. If I ask you all, como se dice house, you would say se dice casa, right? Because the answer is se dice casa. Como se dice, how do you say? If we want to know how do you say carpet, how do you say carpet?
Como se dice carpet.
Como se dice carpet. And if I were to ask you guys, como se dice carpet, you would say?
Se dice.
No, you would say, no sé. Right? We learned that before. No sé. That's a very important phrase. I don't know in Spanish is no sé, and we are allowed not to know. Right? I don't know. No sé. Okay? Another, and that is actually the next little phrase here. I don't know, and you're going to see there's a yo in parentheses. Yo in Spanish means I. Okay? I, the speaker, is yo. There's a Y in there. We talked earlier about Y at the end of words, Y at the beginning or in the middle of a word. In Spanish, depending on where you go, the sound may vary a little bit. I, personally, from where I come, it sounds closer to I. So I in Espanol for me is going to be yo. But some people say yo or yo. Just depending on where you go. They're all right. There's not one better than other. It's just different accents from different regions. Okay? So I in Spanish is yo. Okay? And I don't know. See how the yo is in there? In parentheses. It's in parentheses because you don't need to put it there. It's optional. You could use it or you could not use it. For the sake of the class, we will use it from this point on. Okay? So I don't know, you will say
Yo no sé.
yo no sé. Very good. And if you wanted to say I know, you would say yo sé. Right? You just get rid of the negative, which is no, no meaning not. Right? So I know is
Yo sé.
yo sé. Yo sé. We will say the subject pronoun. I don't know.
Yo no sé.
Yo no sé, right? And the next one is also an important one to use, especially when you're starting to learn a language. I do not understand is
Yo no entiendo.
yo no entiendo. Yo no entiendo. Correcto? Yo no entiendo. Let's repeat again. I don't understand is
Yo no entiendo.
yo no entiendo. And I understand?
Yo entiendo.
Everybody else? I understand?
Yo entiendo.
Yo entiendo. Muy bien. And then I have a question. ¿Cómo se dice I have a question?
No sé.
Yo tengo una pregunta. Right? Everybody, I have a question.
Yo tengo una pregunta.
Yo tengo una pregunta. Right? And that brings us to a very important action in English and in Spanish, which is I have. Right? We have questions, we have parties, we have meetings, we have to do things, right? And I have in Spanish happens with yo tengo. ¿Cómo se dice I have?
Yo tengo.
¿Cómo se dice I do not have?
Yo no tengo.
Yo no tengo. Yo tengo. Tengo is an action. Whenever you want to do the negative of an action, you just put no in front. I have, yo tengo. I don't have, yo no tengo. ¿Cómo se dice I have?
Yo tengo.
¿Cómo se dice I don't have?
Yo no tengo.
¿Cómo se dice I do have?
Yo tengo.
Right? Yo tengo. I have, right? Sometimes in English you say I have, and sometimes in English you say I do have. Why would you say I do have versus I have? Or I work versus I do work? Or I pay my taxes versus I do pay my taxes?
Emphasis.
It's emphasis, right? And that is called affirmative emphasis. In Spanish, the affirmative emphasis happens with the opposite of the negative. What's the opposite of no?
Yes.
Yes.
In Español,
Sí.
sí. Very good. So I don't have is
Yo no tengo.
yo no tengo. And the opposite of that would be
Yo tengo.
yo sí
Sí.
tengo.
Sí.
I do have is yo sí tengo. Every single action in Spanish, you can do the affirmative emphasis like that. Okay, let's do that again. ¿Cómo se dice I have?
Yo
Yo
tengo.
tengo.
¿Cómo se dice I don't have?
Yo no tengo.
¿Cómo se dice I do have?
Yo sí tengo.
Muy bien, yo sí tengo. Yo sí tengo. ¿Cómo se dice I don't understand?
Yo.
Yo no entiendo. The one up there, yo no entiendo. Okay, ¿cómo se dice? Let's do that again. ¿Cómo se dice I don't understand?
Yo no entiendo.
Yo no entiendo. ¿Cómo se dice I understand?
Yo entiendo.
Yo entiendo. ¿Cómo se dice I do understand?
Yo sí entiendo.
Yo sí entiendo. That's right. Yo sí entiendo. ¿Cómo se dice I don't know?
Yo sé.
¿Cómo se dice I know?
Yo sé.
¿Cómo se dice I do know?
Yo sé.
Yo sí sé. Yo sí sé. Every single action in Spanish you can do that. Okay, it's called affirmative emphasis. Now every little phrase that we're going over right now, question I get a lot is which ones should we learn and which ones shouldn't we? And the answer to that is every single one, right? Because we're still trying to learn a language. We do need to build up as much vocabulary as possible. Now, if I were to say to you the word alfombra, right? Alfombra. What would you say? Yo no entiendo could be one thing, right? Or you could also say, no sé, you could say I don't know. Or you could also ask, what does it mean? What does alfombra mean? And the way to go for that is number 6, which is ¿qué significa? Repeat. ¿Qué significa? Whenever you hear a word or a phrase or something that you don't understand what it is, and you want to ask what it means, you say ¿qué significa? And then you repeat whatever it is you thought you heard. So if I say alfombra, you would say
¿Qué significa alfombra?
¿qué significa alfombra? Right? ¿Qué significa alfombra? And the answer I would give is significa carpet. Right? Significa carpet. Right? ¿Qué significa? If you wanted to ask me, how do you no. If you wanted to ask, what does casa mean? How would you ask me? What does casa mean?
¿Qué significa casa?
¿Qué significa casa? Right? And then I would say significa house. Right? When anybody says anything or mentions any word, you just say ¿qué significa? And then whatever it is you thought you heard. Right? And the quicker the better, because then you start forgetting. ¿Qué significa? Okay, that's another important little phrase. Another one is again. Again, there's several ways to doing this in Spanish. A common one and useful one for us at this point is otra vez. ¿Cómo se dice again?
Otra vez.
Otra vez. Otra, the otra part means another. The vez part means time. So again, we say another time. We will be using these two words later on. Okay, otra vez. For now, we know that together, otra vez means again. Okay, ¿cómo se dice again?